Today's video is on solving equations by completing the square. So let's go over a couple of examples and show you why it's necessary to complete the square. In the past, if we had something like this, we could solve it by factoring. Notice that these three are factorable, and what I mean by that is I can make an x out of it, and I need two numbers that multiply to 81 add up to negative 18. Those numbers would be negative 9 and negative 9. Because there is no number in the front, I know that I can use these numbers and I can easily put these in parentheses and write this as x minus 9, parentheses x minus 9, is equal to 5. Now, I know in the past you've set each one of these equal to 0. So like what would make this equal to 0? It would be x equal to 9. But this is not going to work for this type of problem. And the reason for that is because if this did equal 9, then 9 minus 9 is equal to 0. 0 times all of this is equal to 0, but I don't want it to equal 0. I want it to equal 5. So because this equation is equal to 5 and not equal to 0, we're not trying to set each one of these equal to 0, okay? What are we going to do instead? Well, I'm going to notice that there's two of these x minus 9s. So that means I get to go ahead and put these together, and I can write this as x minus 9 squared. Now, the nice thing is about having it as a squared is now there is only one x to solve for, and you can solve for it pretty easily. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to undo what's being done to the x. I see that it has a squared on it, so I get to get rid of the squared by taking the square root of both sides. Remember that when you do this, the number one mistake people will make is when you put in the square root, you need to put in a plus or minus. So this is going to be a plus or minus the square root of 5. The whole purpose of me doing this is now these cancel. The squared and the square root are opposite operations, so you're just left with an x minus 9. I'm going to ask myself, do I know the square root of 5? The answer is no. And if you don't know the answer to the square root of 5, we're going to leave it as plus or minus the square root of 5. I'm going to go ahead and add 9 to both sides because I'm trying to get x by itself. X is equal to, now because these are not the same type of thing, this is a square root and this is a 9, I can't put them together. I can't combine them, so I'm going to have to write them separately. I'm going to write the 9 in front. So this is going to be 9 plus or minus the square root of 5. So I have two answers, right? Like the first answer goes through the top, it's 9 plus the square root of 5. And the other answer goes to the bottom, that's 9 minus the square root of 5. And on formative, when you do this, you're going to write this as 9 plus the square root of 5 as your first answer, and then 9 minus the square root of 5 as your second answer. But I do have answers, right? It's two different ones, okay? Which is great, and all of that works, and it's really, really nice. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. I'm going to use the exact same strategy I did before, and I'm going to go ahead and see like, oh, I got a trinomial here in order, and then I got it equal to 2. Just like last time, I'm going to go ahead and set up my x. I need two numbers that multiply to 7 and add up to 12. In class, I was getting a lot of students saying like, oh, 4 and 3. But unfortunately, guys, 4 times 3 is 12, and 4 plus 3 is 7. So we actually have this backwards. It's not going to work. So what multiplies to 7? Well, only 7 and 1, but that's not going to work either, no matter how hard I try. So this one, there's nothing I can really do with this as it stands with the old strategies. So I'm just going to write here that I'm stuck. Right? Like the method that I was trying to use before doesn't work. So what can we do? Well, we can do something called completing the square. Completing the square is something that you learned last year. If you didn't have Math 2 integrated, then maybe you haven't seen it. But here are the steps to completing the square. You're going to separate the variables on one side and the constant on the other. All that's saying is get your x's on one side and the number on the other side. This is going to be the important step, the weird step, but once you have it, then you're going to be golden, right? You're going to take your b, half it, square it, add it to both sides. I'm going to say that really fast just so it sticks in your head. So you're going to take your b, you're going to half it, square it, add it to both sides. Say it one last time. You're going to take your b, you're going to half it, square it, add it to both sides. If you can say it really fast like that, like down, 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 then it makes this process a lot easier, okay? Once you do that and you add it to both sides, then the left side is going to be factorable into a perfect square, which makes this really, really nice. And you're going to be able to solve for your variable. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like. I see something that says x squared plus 8x minus 4 is equal to 0. if I want to complete the square, I'm going to move my x's to one side. Well, the x squared and the 8x are already on the left. And then I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I get x squared plus 8x is equal to 4. At this step is the weird step. This is where I'm going to complete the square. I'm going to take my b. In fact, I'm going to do this over here on the side. I'm going to take my b. What am I going to do with that b? I'm going to half it, and then I'm going to square it. 16 is that magic number I'm looking for. I say the magic number, but really on your homework, this is the number that completes the square. The 16 is the number that completes the square, so the 16 is the one that I'm going to add to both sides. So I'm going to write x squared plus 8x plus 16 is equal to 4 plus 16. This is me adding the number to both sides. Again, 16 is the number that completes the square. Okay? All right, now that I have that, I said if you do this correctly, then now you should be able to make an x. And not only that, it should work really, really nice. So I need two numbers that multiply to 16, but add up to positive 8. Well, what's that going to be? That's going to be a positive 4 and a positive 4. And guys, I said that this is going to be really nice. Every single time you complete the square, you better get the same number on both sides or else you did something wrong. So I'm going to write it the long way again. That means this factors to x plus 4 times x plus 4 is equal to 20. Notice that you have two of those x plus 4s. That's super key because now you can write this as x plus 4 squared is equal to 20. And now you only have one x to deal with instead of a bunch of x's, which means now you can actually solve for it. So we're going to undo what's being done to the x. We're going to solve for a variable. So let's see, how do I get rid of the squared? I'm going to square root both sides. Because I'm taking a square root, I need to add it plus or minus. These are going to cancel. I get x plus 4 is equal to plus or minus square root of 20. Do you know the square root of 20? I don't. I know it's something like 4.5 or 4.6, something around those lines. So I'm going to leave it as square root of 20. Okay. As of right now, we're going to leave it as square root of 20. Later on, we will simplify that square root of 20. I want to solve for x though. So I'm going to subtract 4 from each side. Just like last time, I look at these and this is a square root and this one's not, so they're not like terms. I don't get to combine them. So we're going to write this as x is equal to, you're going to take the negative 4, you're going to stick it in the front, and then you're going to get two different problems. One's going to be a plus square root of 20 and the other one's going to be a minus square root of 20. So there's your two answers. If you go from the top, that's going to be negative 4 plus the square root of 20 as one of your answers. And if you go through the bottom, that's going to be a negative 4 minus the square root of 20 as your other answer. All right, let's go a little bit faster on the next one. I got x squared minus 10x minus 4. We're going to do the same thing. The first step is to move your variables one side and then your numbers to the other. So I'm going to get rid of that plus 4. And I get x squared minus 10x is equal to a positive 4. This is the weird step right here. This is where I'm going to take my b. I'm going to half it squared, add it to both sides. So let me take my b over here on the side. B is equal to negative 10. I'm going to half it. I'm going to square it. And 25 is the number that I'm going to add to both sides. That is to say 25 is the number that completes the square. Okay, so I'm going to take the 25, add it to both sides. It's going to be x squared minus 10x plus 25 is equal to 4 plus 25. I know on the right-hand side, that's going to be a 29. On the left-hand side, if I did this correctly, these three numbers should factor really, really nicely now. I'm going to go ahead and make an x. I need two numbers that multiply to 25 but add up to negative 10. And again, it better be the same number both times or else I did not complete the square correctly. And sure enough, it is the same number. It's going to be a negative 5 and a negative 5. So I'm going to write this as parentheses. Now, here's what I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut. Because I have x minus 5 and x minus 5, it's the same thing. So I'm going to say like, oh, it's two of them. So I'm going to write it as x minus 5 squared just to save a step. Now, instead of having a bunch of x's, you only have one x, you can solve it. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for it. I just realized I didn't highlight that 25. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to go ahead and solve for the x by undoing what's being done to the x. So I'm going to square root the left. I'm going to square root the right. Remember that when you sneak in a square root, you need to add in a plus or minus. Do you know the square root of 29? I don't, so I'm going to leave it as the square root of 29. The whole reason of me doing this is because this squared cancels out with this square root. They're opposite operations. So what you're still left with is an x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 29. Because I'm trying to get x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite of minus 5, which is a plus 5 to both sides. These are going to cancel, and I get x is equal to, again, these are not like terms, so I'm going to go ahead and keep them separated. 5 plus or minus the square root of 29. And you're going to write it as two separate answers. So the first answer is going to be 5 plus the square root of 29. The other one's going to be 5 minus the square root of 29. Just to be clear, 5 plus 20 square root of 29, I don't know what it is, but I know it's going to be bigger than 5 minus the square root of 29. So if they were to ask you, like, put the smaller one on the left-hand side, then the one that's subtracting the square root of 29 would be first, and then this one would be the bigger one. You would write it here. But on the formative, you can write it either way, okay? All right, this problem gave students trouble all day. So let's focus on the first step. First step is I'm going to move all the variables to one side and all the numbers to the other. This is a variable, this is a number, this is a variable. This is the one that's got to move. It's got to move this way because the number is kind of like already by itself when you do that, right? If I start moving this guy over here and moving this guy, like that's a lot of movement. I don't need to do all that. I can just move this one over here and I'll be done. I'll have all the a's on the left-hand side and the numbers on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and write this as a squared minus 4a, because I subtracted 4a from each side, is equal to negative 3. At this point, this is where I'm going to take my b, which is negative 4. I'm going to half it, square it, and add it to both sides. So I said b is equal to negative 4. I'm going to take that negative 4. I'm going to half it. That's negative 2. I'm going to square it. That's a positive 4. And 4 is going to be the number that completes the square. That is to say, 4 is the number I'm going to add to both sides. So I'm going to get a squared minus 4a is equal to negative 3 plus 4. Whoa, 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 whoa. I did not add the 4 to both sides. I just added it to the right. I did not add it to the left. What is going on there? And actually, here's the magic number that I added to. Oh, I did do it on the other ones. I just forgot to do it on this one. All right, if I did that correctly, I should be able to factor the left-hand side now. I need two numbers that multiply to 4 but add up to negative 4. That's going to be negative 2 and negative 2. So I can factor this into a parentheses a negative 2, but because I have two of them, I'm going to write this as squared. And then over here, negative 3 plus 4, that's just a positive 1. Now that I have only one variable, I'm able to do the opposite of squared, which is square root. This is the other part that was really jacking up students today. These cancel. I get a minus 2 is equal to, do you know the square root of 1? I sure do. The square root of 1 is just 1. So I'm going to leave this as plus or minus just 1, because you know the square root of 1 is 1, okay? Now, when I add 2 to both sides, I look at this and I go, is it possible for me to combine the 2 with the 1? Absolutely. They're both regular numbers, so you are going to be able to simplify this a lot further than you did the last one. You're still going to take that 2 and sneak it in the front, but that's going to be 2 plus or minus 1. So when you go through the top, 2 plus 1, then the answer is going to be 3 as one of your answers. And when you go through the bottom, 2 minus 1, then the answer is going to be 1 for your other answer. So this one doesn't have any of those crazy square roots. It's just 3 and 1, and that's it, okay? All right, you go ahead and try that last one. I'm going to assume that you paused the video and you already tried it on your own. So I'm going to go very, very quickly through this one because you should have a lot of work done already, okay? All right, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 1. So this is x squared plus 6x is equal to negative 1. I'm going to take my b, which is 6. I'm going to half it, which is 3. Take the 3, square it. That's going to be a 9. 9 is the number Well, b was 6. And 9 is the number that completes the square. So 9 is the number that I'm going to add to both sides. It's going to be x squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to negative 1 plus 9. If you did this correctly, this should be factorable. I need two numbers that multiply to 9 and add it to 6. That's going to be 3 and 3. Because I'm going to have two of them, this is going to be an x plus 3 squared is equal to 8. Again, I know I'm going fast, but that's because you should have already done a lot of this stuff. These are going to cancel, and you get x plus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 8. I don't know the square root of 8, so I'm going to leave it as the square root of 8. And then finally, to get x by itself, we're going to go ahead and subtract 3 on both sides. This is going to be x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 8, which means your two answers should be negative 3 plus the square root of 8 and negative 3 minus the square root of 8. That is all the notes for today. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask.